to be curated to different geographical areas with support for native currency. So you can do everything in a native currency. You can see everything in, let's say, INR, or maybe like your Nigerian naira, or the Brazilian real. And like compared to other wallets or super apps, you can just view everything. In Xade, you can even transact in your native currency. You can get your native language support. So again, to sum up, our three USPs would be the ultimate aggregator, the best experience, and the streamlined experience. So yeah.
Yeah, that is wonderful. I was on mute, but I think what you kind of put is for the as the USPs. I think those can be very fundamental to just having an easier experience while interacting with Web3 applications, or just getting into Web3 for somebody who's perhaps not that well versed in the way Web3 sort of functions, and it might, gasless being one of them, and having a clearer user experience, obviously giving them a good interface which they find easy to navigate, akin to perhaps Web2 applications, is a another advantage. But then let's take another step back and talk about acquiring these users. You guys have been able to acquire a considerable number of users, right? So how have you been able to do that? Trying to perhaps spill the secret sauce a little bit here.
Very simple. Like, I mean, compared to, like, we just take inspiration from Web 2, like Web 2, and I mean, to be honest, what we're doing in Web 3, people think it's very different, but to be honest, we're just copying Web 2. We have just given it new terms. Airdrops are nothing but incentivization. PayPal had a very strong referral program. PayPal used to offer their users $5 for just using their platform. We have just named it airdrops. It's just a better way of incentivizing users, acquiring users through communities. We have had communities since the 70s. When Apple was launched, Apple was able to create their early user base via creating a strong community of tech and enthusiasts. Same goes for literally every other tech product that has existed since the 1970s or even before. So we are just following the same roadmap as every company has. So we have a simple three-step process. We acquire users through different communities, different tech and Web3 communities. We retain them through our experience. We retain them due to the sheer number of features that we keep launching, and we incentivize them with something known as Zate points, which, unlike what we are seeing in DeFi points today, can actually be redeemed for different rewards, such as gift cards, such as cash, or maybe an exclusive role. We are partnered with several NFT projects, so you can get an exclusive collectible drop to you, and several other rewards that you can get by redeeming these Zate coins or Zate points. So it's a very simple three-step process. It's more about the execution than the guerrilla marketing techniques. So yeah.
Wonderful. Are you also trying to perhaps facilitate any offline events to increase engagement in the community?
Personally, like, I mean, again, like, we tend to spend more towards a product, because that's what we believe a major factor is. We
Hmm.
haven't started doing a lot of we don't do any offline events as of right now, because as I mentioned, we like to concentrate everything towards product, and the remaining just goes towards, like, acquiring users via the remaining goes towards incentives, and whatever is left just goes through basically getting to different communities, or getting into different or just doing online marketing. Offline events is something which we haven't tapped into yet. and for
Okay.
a and for a B2C company, I believe, like, um sponsoring different events, like, sponsoring different mega events, such as, if I were to say, different concerts, like whatever the traditional companies have been doing, right, the traditional consumer companies have been doing, makes more sense. Whereas
Hmm.
offline events such as meetups, such as hackathons, make more sense for B2B companies, or developer oriented companies who are trying to acquire, developers, or who are trying to acquire more Web3 native people. Whereas for a mass based consumer products such as ours, meetups, personally, I believe, won't be that effective. For us, it's mostly going to be like, sponsoring larger events, such as, like, maybe, let's say, a concert, or any big event that's happening, that will probably help us more compared to doing our own meetups. So I would say there are two reasons why we don't do meetups. Number one, like, we are not focusing on them very much, and number
Hmm.
two, probably won't be as effective for us than, let's say, compared to a B2B company. So yeah.
Okay. So yeah, perhaps every company has their own strategy for acquisition, and you, because you are B2C, and you would rather look at perhaps more consumer facing ways
Yeah.
to reach out to your potential user base, which is wonderful. So you are currently live in multiple test nets, right? And the Polygon POS mainnet. So how does it help your product vision, by being live on so many uh, networks, and what is like the plan for the future? How do you envision Xade as a product working in the multiverse?
100%. So, well, first of all, we were live on Polygon POS and multiple test nets. Multiple test nets, we were live again. That was a mistake which we did because we were trying to farm, we were trying to get engagement, we were trying to get community members via different test nets. That
Hmm.
was, I like looking back into it, it was a good way to get some traction. But in the long term, it may help us, but to be honest, it destroys the trust that the users have on you. So personally, I don't consider it a very good decision. We started on the Polygon POS chain, considering the fact that the infrastructure available on Polygon is just unmatched.
Hmm.
Uh, but right now we have gone omni-chain. So we aggregate every chain that's out there, whether it's Solana, whether it's Cosmos, whether it's any EVM chain out there. We aggregate all of them because the future is not multi-chain; it's omni-chain, where we are going to aggregate. Where if the users want to experience DeFi, they shouldn't change their chains. They shouldn't just hop from one ecosystem to another. The users should experience the best of DeFi, which we are making possible by aggregating all these chains. So we as of right now are not native to any chain, and we are entirely omni-chain. So we abstract away all the chains, and we are live on all chains. All chains. As of this moment, it's around 45 plus. So yeah.
Okay. So this is a good vision to have. I think like having the vision of an omni-chain, I think that makes wonderful sense, and especially for a product like yours, which is more DeFi facing in the Web3 ecosystem. Now, stepping back a little from Zaid, I would love to talk about and get your perspective on the Web3 ecosystem in general. You've mentioned, and you started the conversation talking about how you feel that you're already in a, the bull run has already begun, according to you. So can you tell us a little about your perspective on the kind of niches, apart from DeFi, that will do well in this current or upcoming bull run?
Definitely. So, personally, I believe we cannot predict which narratives are gonna do well,
Hmm.
which niches, which segments other than DeFi is gonna do well. It has always been very hard to predict. It will be impossible to predict, to be honest, because we see narratives formed in 2 days, like we saw with the ERC 404 narrative. We have seen the narrative with real world assets. Sometimes it's deepened, sometimes it's RWA. So it just keeps on changing every day. So
Hmm.
we cannot predict which narrative is going to do well, or you know, which niche or which category is going to do well, because that changes every day. Perhaps it's going to be a category which has not existed before this this bull run. DeFi is something which has been constant throughout. But if you were to ask me from the technology point of view, not from a price action point of view, other than DeFi, there are two things which I'm very very bullish on. Those are number one, it's Deepen. Deepen is a very interesting category where most of the products that we have today
Hmm.
are are probably probably going to go to zero. But few Deepen projects are something who are actually making an impact, and they're actually going to do good. So Deepen and decentralized identities, those are the two things other than DeFi which I'm bullish on, and real world assets, of course. So yeah.
Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, that is wonderful. Like your perspective around deepen and these basically on the infrastructure layer. I think there has been a special focus, and I also concur. I do think that in the next or the bull run that they are in, these are going to be the products that you have to kind of watch out for. Is there an infrastructure layer that you guys are perhaps working on as well, apart from make keeping this as a consumer ended product, but is that something that you guys have under the wraps as well?
We personally, like, at one point of time we were working on infrastructure
Hmm.
because um at that point of time we believed that the infra that we wanted was not available.
Right.
But with the amount of teams, started working on an infra for I think about 3 4 months. Then we
Hmm.
started discussing with different teams, and we explained to them what we wanted and what our vision was. So those infra companies started working on those. So that's the first time we started working on infra. And if we were to talk about the infra layer, uh, personally, we have built a lot of infrastructure, such as the Remitex. So Remitex was one of our products which we launched, which was one of our first products,
Hmm.
which allow people to send payments to any mobile number or email address in the world. So that is right now an infrastructure product which people can basically leverage via different SDKs. But we never thought of making it an SDK or an API which other
Hmm.
developers leverage, because we wanted it to be exclusive to our platform. So in terms of infra, that's a direction which I don't believe we'll be taking anytime soon. But
Hmm.
again, anything can happen. Merchants, infrastructure for merchants or something Stripe for DeFi is something which which we are definitely planning on becoming. But again, infrastructure for developers is not something which I believe that we are going to do something in the near future. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Good to know. I think it's good to have a sharp focus as it is when you're working and building something so tremendous. So keeping your focus at a level where you want more consumers to perhaps be joining in the Web3 bandwagon and utilizing it in an easier, efficient manner, staying true to your basically vision. I think that is a good way to move forward.
100%, definitely. I mean, if everybody starts doing everything, then the space is
Hmm.
not going to progress. And I believe we have a lot of infra projects, like
Right.
in and there's a reason that we have so many infra projects. It's much easier to build a business out of again, every business is very difficult to build, but in the Web3 space, we have always seen infra projects or infra companies to do better than we can see that is because the and DeFi is built on top of building on top of different layer ones, which are
Right.
nothing but infrastructure. So
Yeah.
infrastructure will always be the winner of Web3. But if we cannot build the consumer layer, then the space won't survive and nobody will need that infrastructure. So yeah.
Absolutely. I think that is, really hitting the nail on the head. Now, we are almost at the end of the time where you have to wrap this up. I would love to know from you, are there any resources or any thought leaders or just any founders that, you admire in the space that you would recommend that our listeners perhaps key into as well?
Okay, so this list is very very long,
Yeah.
but if I were to say a few people who I
Hmm.
really admire in the space, Uh, so one of them would definitely be Ajit Tripathi. So
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I like the reason why I like Ajit sir is because Ajit Khurana, Ajit Tripathi, both of them. Ajit Tripathi provides he's the biggest DJ I know.
Hmm.
So he knows DeFi and he knows Polygon. So
Yeah.
that's the reason. So, he's one of the people I love interacting with. He's one of the people I love listening to. He's one of the people I just love seeing on my Twitter feed. A few other people would definitely be one of them would definitely be Vitalik. So Vitalik is the OG. He knows his stuff, and but understanding Vitalik is going to take a lot of time because the stuff he says is just difficult to understand.
Hmm.
And other
It's a
other
little too technical, perhaps.
it's
It's
super
not
tech-
for everybody. Yeah.
it's super technical. And a few of the people who I really admire in this space. Again, there's so many, but I'm just trying to figure out from the top of my head who are the people who I admire the most. Um, I uh, believe one of them should be definitely be Moat from Solana, Moat from Helios Labs, who is
Hmm.
currently on Solana. So he has a lot of hot takes, and he's not against EVM, but I really like his takes. So these three people are these three people are some people who who I would definitely follow on Twitter to get the insights on. Uh, but but if I were to say people who have taught me the most in the DeFi space, it would be very different people. It would be Christian from MakerDAO.
Hmm.
It would Stanny. I like Stanny, but Stanny has shifted more towards lens and more towards
Yeah.
more towards social media. So right now, I don't listen to him. 2021 Stanny is someone who I loved, to follow. And lastly, I would say the one person, if I were to select, it would be, it's a very he's also he's a influencer, but
Hmm.
like he's a great friend, and he's like, he's probably the most knowledgeable influencer I know. It's Hitesh Malviya. So he's
Yeah.
a great guy,
Very,
and
very great insights. Yeah. The way he kind of puts it forward in a succinct manner, I think it's wonderful because it makes it so much more accessible, right? The information.
100% definitely. So those are the people who I would follow in terms of resources, and like I just mentioned the people who I like the most on a Twitter feed. But
Hmm.
yeah, these are the resources, and other than that, again, like there's so many resources out there on the internet, and right now we have Perplexity. So just like once you get into Perplexity, once you just enter the term DeFi,
Hmm.
all that you enter into, it's just vast. So just enter the word DeFi and like Perplexity or Google, and
Yeah.
you'll enter the rabbit hole. So yeah,
Absolutely. I think it's a rabbit hole that once you fall down in, you have a hard time getting out because there's just so much to learn and so much to imbibe.
100%.
So, Harshal, this has been such a lovely conversation. It came with its own glitches, but thank you so much for being accommodating. And I really don't want this to end. I think what you guys are doing is wonderful. It completely aligns with my ethos of making Web3 more accessible and easy. I'd be amiss if I did not ask you this one question that I ask everybody who comes on the show. Are someone who discovered crypto and then you got into Web3. If there is somebody like you, pretty much, who has the next great idea, perhaps around improving the ecosystem, but they're still sitting on the ledge, what would be your suggestions to them for them to start living on blockchain?
Okay, so well, this is a very interesting question, and I usually give a very simple to answer to this.
Hmm.
Don't just do it.
Yeah.
Right? Just start building. Like, I mean, a lot of people think like, what if I do this? Then like the repercussions, the consequences may not be favorable. But I believe until and unless you do it, you won't understand. So you will either succeed or you will learn.
Hmm.
So, but once you think like if you keep thinking, if you keep procrastinating, um, you cannot do anything. Just so I believe, just start building. You'll either succeed or you learn. So once you start building, you'll enter into a new world,
Hmm.
and I can definitely assure you is that that you're not gonna lose if you start building. So that's what my suggestion is. Just start building. Just learn how to code. Start coding. If you don't know how to code, still learn how to code, because in this space you need to know how to code. And building is something which you have to start by your own. Until and unless you have very great friends like me,
Hmm.
so get your friends and start building. So that's my only suggestion.
I think those are wonderful suggestions. I think just start building, don't wait. I would even add that, even if you are perhaps not that technically sound, do not let that stop you from getting into this space. Because A, you can always get help. And B, that there are a lot of no code tools as well that are available, perhaps for you to just get started at least. You don't need to have a fully working product to be able to validate the idea. You just need to have an MVP, and you can build an MVP with even no code tools and with a little help from the ecosystem, just so that you can validate your idea and then perhaps go forward and build your vision in a more uh, you know concurrent way, perhaps.
Absolutely, totally agree on this, because I myself started as a non-tech guy
Yeah.
uh, for Prahara, and like when I started to say it, I was a non-tech guy for more than a year. So
Hmm.
definitely, like being technical, like that's not a barrier anymore. Like with Chat GPT, I mean earlier it
Exactly.
was
Yeah, you can learn on the go, right? That is not an excuse anymore that you can have that, okay, I'm not technical. Because see, I started my journey, like, I don't know, as an entrepreneur in deep tech, that too, nearly 14 years ago. And I come from a background in humanities. But that never really stopped me from building the products that I wanted to build and doing what I wanted to do. Because even when there was no chat GPT, there are always resources online, and you can sort of become a self-taught techie. It's not that hard, and as long as you have the perseverance and the grit to do it, the world's your oyster.
100% definitely, totally agree on that.
Thank you so much, Herschel, for making the time to speak to me today. This has been such a wonderful conversation. All the best for Xade. I am already one of your users. I think you've built a wonderful product, and I'm looking forward to your new releases as well.
Yep. Thanks a lot for the call, and thanks a lot for having me, Tarusha. and really great to be over here. Thanks a lot.
Likewise. Thank you.